I went on a first date and it was abysmal. Probably the scariest date I've ever been on in my entire life. Let me tell you guys what happened, and if you like my stories, like to hear about my bad dating life, feel free to drop me a follow. But let's get right into it. So I ended up matching with this girl on Hinge. She was super cool. She liked to snowboard. She said she liked to golf. She actually had a golf picture on her profile, which was pretty nice. We exchanged numbers. We got to talking, and honestly, we talked for a little longer than I wanted to. This was pushing like 2 weeks of conversation before we finally got something planned. And the main reason for that, she lived a little more than an hour away. So it wasn't as easy to just hop in the car and go see her after work or something. But I finally made some time. I decided to go see her on a weekend, so it didn't really matter what time I got home. We decided to meet at this bar, and I let her pick the place because I was driving out to her. The day of the date comes, and we're texting all day, like normal. She was very good at keeping in conversation, very easy to talk to. But I finished up work, and I let her know, like, I'm going to stop home real quick, shower, and then I'll be heading up. And it's pretty snowy where I live, so when this happened, I knew it was going to take a lot longer than an hour to get there. Probably closer to an hour and a half. I'm already kind of reconsidering this date, thinking is it really worth it to drive all the way out there, but it is the weekend, why not? Sometimes you gotta just take a chance. So I'm heading out to this bar in her hometown, and I'm like 45 minutes away, and I'm in the absolute boonies. We were so country, I was surprised my phone worked. Like, I was waiting for my Apple Maps to just shut off. There was probably a house every, 2 miles, it felt like. And I'm driving up, and I'm getting closer. It says I'm like 3 minutes away, and I still see absolutely nothing. It's just pitch black out. But finally, it says I'm literally like 30 seconds away, and I see it. It is the dingiest, smallest, little hometown bar you would ever expect. But I noticed something. There's only one other car there. And I mean one other car. If you're doing math in your head, there's workers, patrons, my date. So that is at least 2 other cars. But I pull in, and I text her I'm here, says, hey, I'm like 3 minutes away. Can't wait to see you. So I'm just sitting there waiting, kind of scoping out the place. It doesn't even look open. Either that or me and my date are going to be the only 2 people in there. But she gets there within 3-5 minutes. She was actually on time. And I walked up to her car, introduced myself, and I asked her, I go, are you sure this place is open? She was like, yeah, I know the owner. We're good. Not surprising. It is such a small town, it looked like, that she probably does know the owner. The snow was also calming down at this point, so it makes sense not a lot of people are out. Still, you'd expect to see 1 or 2 other people, some blue-collar worker who just had a long day and wanted to hang out at the bar or something. But no, it was just us. And we go in the bar, and it's me, her, bartender. We sit down. I ended up getting a beer. She got some cocktail. I'm pretty sure it was Cosmopolitan. It was a Cosmopolitan. It was like a pink drink. It reminded me of Fairly Odd Parents. You know, Wanda, Cosmo. But anyways, we're just sitting there, talking, getting to know each other. We got to know each other pretty well over text. Again, we were talking for 2 weeks, but it was nice to put a face to the name, really get to know her, make sure all her stories checked out, honestly. And after about half an hour of talking, we went over to play some darts and some pool. I don't know if you're supposed to let the girl win, but I didn't. At this point, it's probably 8:30, 9 o'clock. We'd been there for about an hour or so. I knew I had a long drive home. I definitely didn't want to drive home tipsy. Not in this weather. Not ever. So I told her, hey, this was a lot of fun, but I think I'm going to wrap it up. And she's like, no, please stay for one more drink. I'm having such a good time. And that was flattering. I was like, you know what? I will stay for a little bit longer. I'm not going to get a drink. I'm just going to get a water, but yeah, we can stay. And I think she understood the weather was so bad that why I wanted to leave. The date wasn't going bad. But I knew I wasn't staying over. I had to get home at some point. So we sit down back at the bar. I asked for the bartender for a water. And she's like, no, please make him a special drink. And I tell the bartender and her, I'm like, no, can I please have a water? I have a long drive home. And the bartender goes, give me a water. She gets another Cosmo and Wanda. I'm a little bit worried about her getting home, but whatever, it's a small town. And the bartender comes back, gives me my water, gives her Cosmo and Wanda, tells us he has to go stock beer or something. So we're just sitting there, talking, and she goes, why don't you want another drink? You should really just have one more. I'm having a great time. And again, I tell her, I'm good. I have a long drive home. I really appreciate it. I'm having fun too. She's like, no, please just have one more. And at first I thought it was because she genuinely enjoyed my company and was enjoying the date, but the way she's pushing for this is starting to make me a little sketched out. Because after that, she literally looks at me and goes, "You know what, I'm just going to make you one." And stands up and walks behind the bar. Now, she did say she knew the owner, but I didn't think she knew the owner like that. Or she's even actually allowed to do this. And I ask her, I go, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I do this all the time. Don't worry about it. Let me make you my favorite drink." I'm just sitting there. She's doing random stuff behind the bar. I see her pouring the bottle into the little shaker and she's shaking it up. And I'm thinking she's making me a Cosmo. That's what she said two of. That's what I would assume, right? But she shakes it up and puts it back down behind the bar where I can't see it. She says, "Give me 1 second. I have to go get my special ingredient. It's in the walk-in." And as if I wasn't sketched out enough, you're going to go get a special ingredient.
If you don't like scary stuff, I would definitely suggest scrolling on this one. So basically, my place of work is haunted. And like, stuff doesn't really happen unless you're like alone, but it's not like major like activity. Well, today I was working at night with 2 of my other coworkers, and I work at a restaurant, so it was super dead for like 2 hours. So we're just sitting there talking, and we're talking about like our creepy experiences, like telling scary stories, whatever. And like, we definitely felt like an energy shift, almost like the ghosts were listening to us. And there's no one in the restaurant besides the cook that's in the kitchen and then us 3. So we're all sitting by the bathroom, and as we're all talking about like our creepy experiences, the bathroom door opens, the women's bathroom door opens, and literally we all just freeze. We're like, was that the door? Like, is that what we just thought it was? And then we're like, okay, whatever. So we keep talking, and then we hear like tapping, but the taps were coming in 3s, and it was by our like milkshake and soda machine area. So it was like right next to us. We have one out in the lobby and then one in the kitchen. So again, we're like, did you guys hear that? Okay, that was rude, whatever. Okay, back to talking, right? So we're back to conversating. This is where it gets weird. So I'm a person who spirits are attracted to me, I guess. I've always dealt with the paranormal. You guys have seen my videos, you know. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we hear this faint voice say my name. I'm literally getting goosebumps right now. Like, we all jump. Like, we all get up at the same time. We're like, what the F? This thing was trying to scare us, or it was trying to let us know that it was listening. I'm freaking out at this point because it said my name, obviously. Okay, this is actually the part where it gets really creepy. So, the cook, he comes out of the kitchen and we're telling him everything that happened, and he's laughing. He tells us a long time ago, a kid, in the restaurant, it used to be a different restaurant, like way back, he said that a kid, I want to say the word on TikTok, but you know what I mean. And apparently you can see a child shadow running around the buildings. I've never seen like an actual ghost in the building. Well, I've seen like shadows in my peripheral, but anyways, I've definitely had my fair share of experiences at my job, but this one is by far the creepiest. But then obviously the night went on, we got kind of busy, so our conversations ended, and yeah, the night went on. Nothing really happened after that. I ended up closing alone. So, yeah.
All right, if you don't like real life ghost stories, then you're going to want to skip this video. But if you do, then stick around. When I was a kid, my father started dabbling with the occult. He joined a group of Rosicrucians, which is a witchcraft cult. And he would bring some items to the apartment where we lived in after work, and he would go into the bedroom, lock himself in. If we were in there, he'd, have us leave, and he would perform some sort of ritual or God knows what. We weren't allowed in. He didn't tell us what he was doing, but it was something to do with the witchcraft. Strange things started happening in the apartment, but eventually my mother left him, and we had to move in with family. And of course, we were very poor, so we all shared a bedroom. My mother and my sister slept in one bed. I slept in a smaller bed next to them. One night, I remember waking up at about 3 in the morning. I had been waking up at about 3 in the morning every night for a while, but on this particular night, I woke up and I was just laying there awake, and I had turned and I was facing my mother and sister's bed. when suddenly I see this blue light come out of my mother. This bright, brilliant, indescribable light that I've never seen before or since. When this light came up, it was like my mother laying there on the bed, and this thing just came up like this. It sat up. It was what you would call a ghost, a spirit, and it was my mother. Same hair, same face, same torso, arms, and because it was sitting there, the blue in her legs, it was still just sitting there, like inside her legs, but her torso, she kind of sat up on the bed with her arms back, like when you're about to get up out of bed. And it's staring forward. And I guess it sensed that I was looking at it. And so it turned to look to me. And when it looked at me, again, the visible appearance of it was identical to my mother. But there was something strange in her look. It didn't have the look that my mother gives. It didn't have that same stare, that same glare or look that my mother had. When a loved one looks at you and they're not okay, anyway, it was off. It was foreign. It was strange. And it was looking at me almost as if it was confused as to why I was looking at it. It was confused that I was in its presence, almost as if it was strange to it that I was looking at her. And this freaked me out. Of course, after a few seconds, and I guess after I absorbed it and processed it in my 5-year-old mind, I began to scream bloody murder. And it looked at me, it was still looking at me, and when I started to scream, it just kind of went, and it turned back forward and it laid back down. One of the things that really stood out to me was, as bright and brilliant as this thing was, it wouldn't give off any light. It didn't give off light into the room, onto the wall, onto me. It was all contained there. And it was the most brilliant blue light.
Let's talk about one of my followers and how she was tricked into selling her soul. If you're new here, hi. I usually talk about pretty scary stuff, and I have an email where anyone finds this page because I'm here the ghost stories. And this is one of the submissions. So let's get into it. This story comes from Sam, who starts off her whole email by saying that she watched one of my other videos where I specifically talk about another experience that somebody else had in selling their soul. She also says that this is her own encounter, and it's more so to bring awareness to the situation of how easy it is to do something like this, especially if it's unintentional. And what I'm gathering from this email is that Sam is a very spiritually in tune person, and specifically is able to feel the presences and has had childhood experiences with spirits. But long story short, she started meditating to find comfort in silence, and eventually came into contact with a spirit/presence that she could not see, but she was able to have a full-on conversation with this man. They're going back and forth, and eventually she cracks a joke, and she is like, I have no real goals or aspirations in my life since my diagnosis, and I don't think anybody would want to buy my soul no matter what I offered for it. And this is where things get a little scary, because she didn't hear back from that voice she was hearing, and eventually just kind of dozed off into sleep. And she specifically says in the email that she just dozed off because she didn't think that she was a good client for whoever she was talking to. But following this conversation with whoever she spoke to, she has an unnaturally vivid dream. And in the dream, she is specifically signing a contract to buy a house. And this real estate agent is just smiling the whole time and says, I wish you a very great life in this house. And then she just wakes up. And what's super crazy is that this was such a vivid dream that she actually woke up and thought that she had bought a house and signed a contract with this person. And as she's going through her morning routine, she is realizing that there is something off, there's something wrong. Specifically, she had these family heirlooms that were gone. And the pouch that she used to put all of these things in was also moved. But the thing that got her to realize that she might have made a mistake with this unseen person was the fact that the Christmas lights that she had in her room were plugged into an outlet. And the reason why the Christmas lights in particular sold her finally on what had happened is she likes to sleep in complete darkness and remembers unplugging the Christmas lights before she went to bed. And now they are plugged in and turned on. And as she's looking at these Christmas lights, she sees somebody out of the corner of her eye and a hand come up around her shoulder. But what's very strange about the situation is that all of the anxiety left her body and she felt like the presence that was standing behind her was coming from a good place. However, the Christmas light situation was only the beginning of this entire thing, and Sam proceeded to have one of the best days of her life, and she suffers from a disorder where her brain is telling the rest of her body that it is in pain. She says it felt like she woke up and somebody gave her a new body. And she says the scariest part about this whole thing is that she's actually at peace, but she was definitely tricked into doing this. And I think the most interesting part for me is a detail that she included in the email that said these malevolent spirits that she had been seeing since she was a child, she no longer sees since signing this contract in her dream. But at the end of her email, she says that she just wants people to be cautious about things in the spiritual realm that they think are BS because they probably aren't. And it could result in a situation similar to this. But that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.
Mulla pyydettiin storytimea, niin mä kerron teille mun kesän treffeistä samalla kun mä teen vanhoja taas silmämeikin. Mä koitin tehdä tämmöisellä James Charlesin paletilla. Ja mä ajattelin jotain semmoista niinku neutraalia, että ois ja sit jotain tämmöistä glitteriä. Mutta siis mä juttelin yhdelle pojalle kesällä. Ja me puhuttiin puheluja näin ja se oli tosi mukava mun mielestä. Se ei asunut samalla paikkakunnalla kuin minä. Joten meidän piti niinku sopia, että milloin me nähdään. Ja sitten me sovittiin semmonen päivä, että mikä kummallakin sopii. No, hänhän lähti ajamaan monta kilometriä tänne Saarijärvelle minun takia. Ja mä olin, että voi että kun oli kiva niinku juttu, että vähänkö kiva päästä hengaamaan tälleen, kun oltiin Snapissa juteltu ja puhelua puhuttu. No, hän tuli autolla mun pihaan ja mä sit menin sen kyytiin, just ajateltiin, ei ollut mitenkään hirveän hyvä keli, niin ajateltiin, että me ajellaan ja näin. Ja sitten, että oltais ehkä menty meille. Mutta mä menin siihen autoon ja mulle tuli heti niin jotenkin outo vipa hänestä. Mä sanoin kuitenkin hänelle, että moi. No, hän ei vastaa mitään. Se ei muokannut mua takaisin. Ja mä olin vähän, että okei, no ehkä sitä jännittää, että ei siinä. Ja sit mä aloin jotain mun perussettiä heittämään, kun mä alkaan niinku kova puhumaan. Niin mä aloin jotain niinku heitin kevennykseksi, että ehkä sitä oikeesti jännittää.
Can we show them the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
Λοιπόν, σήμερα είναι η κατάλληλη ώρα και η κατάλληλη στιγμή να πούμε αυτή την ιστορία. Γιατί από την ώρα που έχω ξυπνήσει είναι 11.30 ώρα το πρωί. Από την ώρα που έχω ξυπνήσει βλέπω συνέχεια στο TikTok μου βιντεάκια που λένε πες μου μια τρομακτική ιστορία που δεν θα πιστέψει κανείς, αλλά. Ωραία. Και έχω δει κυριολεκτικά πάνω από 20 τρομακτικές ιστορίες. Έχει χάρη που με εμφανίζονται τώρα που είναι πρωί και όχι βράδυ. Γιατί είμαι ήδη delusional. Πόσο μάλλον φανταστείτε να τα έβλεπα αυτά και να ήταν βράδυ. Τέλος πάντων, hopefully να μην περάσει πρωί-πρωί κάποιος κάγκουρας ακούγοντας δυνατά τρανό. Σας το λέω γιατί έχω κόψει το βίντεο μου 2 φορές, γιατί έχει γίνει 2 φορές. Ο Μπρο κυριολεκτικά κάνει κύκλους στο στενό για να ακούσουμε όλοι ότι ακούει τρανό. Όχι, φίλε μου, δεν είσαι μάγκας. Σταμάτα! Είναι 11.30 ώρα το πρωί. Τέλος πάντων, επίσης άκουσα έναν ήχο και χαίστηκα πάνω μου. Πολύ καλά θα πάει σήμερα η μέρα, είμαι πάρα πολύ χαρούμενη. Τέλος πάντων, και βλέπω αυτά τα βιντεάκια στο... Βλέπω αυτά τα βιντεάκια λοιπόν στο αγγλικό TikTok, πόσο μάλλον το γεγονός ότι είμαι μέλος του ελληνικού TikTok και δεν βλέπω ελληνικά βιντεάκια, make it make sense. Anyways, λοιπόν, θα σας πω μια ιστορία και επειδή έχω δει, δεν ξέρω ποια από όλες να πω. Genuinely δεν ξέρω ποια από όλες να πω, που είναι πάρα πολύ ανησυχητικό αυτό. Ποια να πω, δώστε μου ένα δεύτερο, I need to think. Λοιπόν, θα μιλήσω για sleep paralysis. Γιατί η δικιά μου ιστορία είναι πολύ πιο unique από άλλες ιστορίες που έχω ακούσει. I'm special. I'm haunted, bitch.
Storytime για το πώς μας ακολούθησε εμένα και την κολλητή μου ένας άντρας μέρα μεσημέρι στο κέντρο της Αθήνας. Θα ανοίξουμε παρέα αυτό εδώ για τα χείλη, το οποίο το πήρα πρόσφατα και δεν έχω προλάβει καθόλου να το ανοίξω. Είναι lip balms για τα χείλη με 3 γεύσεις. Είναι με berry, το άλλο με βανίλια και το άλλο με peach. Λοιπόν, λέω να δοκιμάσουμε παρέα το peach και συνεχίζω την ιστορία μου. Αυτό έχει συμβεί πριν αρκετά χρόνια, θέλω να πω εδώ. Μυρίζει υπέροχα. Έχουν και σπατουλάκι, τώρα το παρατήρησα και θα δοκιμάσω και τις υπόλοιπες γεύσεις. Βέβαια τώρα η μία θα μπει πάνω στην άλλη, αλλά δεν με πειράζει καθόλου. Είμαστε λοιπόν στο κέντρο της Αθήνας με την κολλητή μου, έχουμε κάνει μόλις τα ψώνια μας και φεύγουμε για το σπίτι. Έτσι όπως φεύγουμε λοιπόν, πάμε στο μετρό Μοναστηράκι. Αυτό έχει πιο παχύρευστη σύσταση. Αυτό μου αρέσει πιο πολύ. Και όπως κατευθυνόμαστε στο μετρό προς το Μοναστηράκι, μπαίνουμε κάτω στις αποβάθρες και ενώ καθόμαστε αρκετή ώρα και περιμένουμε το τρένο, παρατηρούμε ότι ένας άνδρας μας κοιτάει πάρα πολύ επίμονα. Εμένα συγκεκριμένα, εκεί μαζί με την κολλητή μου, τον κοιτάμε, μας κοιτάει. Καταλαβαίνουμε ότι κάτι συμβαίνει έτσι λίγο περίεργο, τα vibes ήταν κάπως περίεργα. Μετά πολλά έρχεται το τρένο μας και έτσι μπαίνουμε μέσα. Μπαίνουμε λοιπόν στο τρένο και παρατηρούμε ότι ο συγκεκριμένος άνθρωπος από εκεί μακριά που περίμενε να μπει στο δικό του βαγόνι είχε περπατήσει μέσα στο μπούγιο γιατί είχε και αρκετό κόσμο και είχε έρθει να μπει μέσα στο δικό μας.
Okay, I'm waiting for my brother to come meet me for lunch, and I was scrolling on TikTok and someone had posted what's the scariest moment in your life, and I think I might have the scariest one. So I have always been terrified of someone breaking into my house. My parents' house got broken into when I was like in the 2nd grade, and I've been scared since, and I don't even live with my parents anymore. And I feel like I'm always prepared for someone to break in, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so I was at my parents' house. I still lived there, and my parents were at the beach, and my sister was out of town, and my brother was at work, so there was nobody in the house. And I remember sleeping, or maybe just laying in my bed. This was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I heard someone in my kitchen, like opening cabinets and shutting cabinets, and I thought, great, the time is now. Like, I'm ready to kill somebody. And I was terrified because usually when my parents left me and they went on vacation, they would leave me a shot. I don't know if I can say it because I'm gonna get taken down. But anyways, they always left me one, and I knew how to shoot one, and I was ready. But they did not leave it out. So I was thinking, what am I supposed to do? And I just thought there was a big man in my kitchen and he was going to come upstairs and kill me, stab me, slice my throat, torture me. Like, I was so scared. So I called 911 and they're like, so-and-so, or first I checked Live 360 to make sure nobody was at home, and everybody was not at home. Like, there was no one close to me at all. So I thought, okay, someone really is in the house. And they kept opening cabinets and my kitchen.
Mä olin yllättynyt siitä, miten moni ei tiedä tästä Koskelan teinisurmasta, joten mä selitän tän nytten mahdollisimman yksinkertaisesti. Ennen kuin mennään aiheeseen, niin mä haluan antaa erittäin ison trigger warning. Koska jos tää järkytti mua, niin tää järkyttää varmasti myös nuorempia ja yhtä herkkiä katsojia. Eli harkitse, katotko tämän videon. Mä myös varoitan, kun mä kerron niistä julmimmista yksityiskohdista, että sä voit skipata ne kohdat, jos susta tuntuu, että sä et ole valmis kuulemaan semmoista. Mutta nyt mennään aiheeseen. Myös korjaus tuohon mun edelliseen videoon. Se tapahtui siis vuonna 2020, ei vuonna 2021. vuosiluvut menee mulle ihan sekaisin, mä en tiedä mikä vuosi on. Tässä on nämä tekijät. Poika A, poika B ja poika C järjestyksessä. Poika B ja C oli tuntenut tämän uhrin päiväkodista asti, mutta poika A, eli vanhin, oli tutustunut tähän uhriin vasta vuonna 2019. Kiusaamista ilmeisesti oli ollut koulussa ja kukaan ei kuitenkaan ollut oikein osannut puuttua siihen. Mikään iltapäivälehti ei ole julkaissut näiden poikien nimiä eikä kuvia, mutta onneksi somen voima on paljastanut näiden nimet ja naamat, jotta kaikki tietää, keitä nämä on. 4.12.2020 nämä pojat oli kutsunut tämän uhrin juhlimaan ton poika C:n syntymäpäiviä. Se täytti siis 16 vuotta. Nämä kaikki 3 tekijää oli humalassa ja he myös pakkojuotti tälle uhrille viinaa. Nämä tekijät oli jo etukäteen suunnitellut, että he haluaa satuttaa tätä uhria ja juottaa sille ensin alkoholia. Nämä tapahtumat tapahtui siis Koskelan sairaala-alueen ympäristössä. Nyt tulee nämä kohdat, mitkä mua itteekin järkyttää, itkettää, joten suosittelen skippaamaan. Jossain vaiheessa sitten nämä 3 tekijää oli alkanut silmittömästi sadistisesti pahoinpitelemään tätä uhria. Tämä uhri oli tullut itkuseksi ja yrittänyt estää käsillä tätä väkivaltaa.
Let's read another scary story that was sent to us. I grew up in a very old house in Queensland, Australia. It's easily over 100 years old, and it was apparently a farmhouse back in the day. My friends growing up always thought our house was spooky. They said they would wake up in the middle of the night with this pressure on their chest, or they'd hear a woman laughing. Mind you, we were like 6 years old, so I took what my friends said with a grain of salt. That's until I started seeing her. I was a clingy kid, always wanted to sleep in my mom's room. One night, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor in my mom's room when all of a sudden I woke up. My mom's room has this inbuilt seat on the windowsill, and I saw my mom sitting there, except it wasn't my mom. My mom was still sleeping in her bed, but there she was, sitting on the windowsill, staring at me. I don't really remember what happened next. I must have fallen back asleep. From there, I'd see this thing regularly, and it always took shape of my mom. I'd be studying in my bed and see my mom walk down the hallway. The next minute, once again, I'd see my mom walk down the hallway again in the same direction. I'm a huge skeptic and always knew there was a possibility of me making things up in my head, but then my brother saw her. My brother is 3 years older than me, typical big brother vibes. Big guy, doesn't scare easily. He was in his room when he came out and asked, "Where's dinner?" My mom said, "Another 30 minutes or so." My brother replied, "But you just came in and told me dinner is ready." But my mom said she didn't. My brother told her he literally saw her open the door, look at him, and tell him that dinner was ready. Anyway, I moved out soon after that, but I had to stay every now and then to take care of the dog whenever my mom went away. This thing always made herself known, but never really did anything until I was dog sitting. It was really hot one night, and I was in my old room with my dog, AC pumping. Randomly, the AC turns off and the door flings open. My dog starts growling and runs out of the room barking to let her outside. I open the back door and I see her, my mom, in a white nightgown at the back of the yard, staring dead at me. It obviously wasn't my mom. She was literally overseas at the time. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't seem to like me. I don't know why, but I just get the sense that it doesn't want me there. It's been tormenting me for 27 years. I still sometimes think I'm just making it up, but my mom has also started seeing it. She had a friend over the other day and saw her friend walk into her bedroom and then saw her walk out of the bathroom, which are on completely opposite sides of the house. It sounds like we have another mimic on our hands. And why are things in other countries so much scarier? I mean, I live in Texas, and yeah, we have scary things here. But I swear, when these stories are in different countries, they just hit different. And that's really scary that whatever that thing is doesn't like the daughter. That house needs some cleansing.
What the fuck was that?
Bro,
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Let's read some more scary Reddit stories. Many years ago, my brother was driving home from college very late at night, early in the morning after finals or midterms from Michigan to Illinois. He's in the middle of nowhere and is getting drowsy. He dozes off for a second, then wakes up to someone saying wake up or stay awake behind him. Not screaming or anything, just what you'd say to someone if you were in the car with them. He looks in the rearview mirror and there's a girl sitting there. He looks at the road and looks again in the rear view and turns around. She's gone. A mile or two later, he drives past a cross and all these flowers on the side of the road. He's wide awake for the rest of the way home. Come to find out later, a college girl fell asleep one night while driving there. She fell asleep and went off the road and crashed and passed away. That is actually so sad. I was in a dead sleep on my couch when I got woke up by wailing and screaming on the front porch of my apartment building. It was my neighbor and some cops. The conversation happening outside my living room window was he had taken shrooms and also had a pew-pew in his apartment, and he admitted to wanting to blast through the walls then himself, so he called 911 and turns himself in. We shared a wall. His ass wanted to shoot all his neighbors. He was put on a gurney and taken to the hospital in an ambulance. I think he came home 2 or 3 days later, if memory serves me. I heard his door opening a lot, so assumed he was home, and shortly moved out afterwards. We only spoke maybe 5 or 6 times in the 7 years he lived on the other side of my living room wall. Okay, wait, I'm confused. So he wanted to pew-pew through the wall and unalive his neighbor at the same time? I don't really get that one. Okay, moving on. When I was little, around 8, I hated going to the dentist. He always made me uncomfortable for some reason. I remember thinking his smile stretched too far and seemed forced, like clowns. Anyway, my mom always came with me and went back so I wouldn't be scared. One day, my dad had me, my parents were divorced, and he had to take me to the dentist. They tried to make me go back alone so he could sit in the lobby doing whatever. The assistants had to literally drag me back to the room, and you could hear me screaming and crying down the hall, refusing to sit in the chair. Finally, my dad came back to get me. Irritated, I'd made a scene. He rescheduled my appointment to when my mom would have me, and we just left. He made a big deal about how bad I was acting and told my mom she was spoiling me and all sorts of shit. 2 weeks later, it's on the news that my dentist was charged with child porn after essaying children under anesthesia and photographing it. I lived in a small college town and my apartment complex was walking distance from the bar downtown area. One weekday night, I stepped out on our front porch to smoke a cigarette or two. I was up late studying. I brought my textbook with me and sat down on the stairs while I smoked. A girl who